It's a good afternoon from Sydney town, predominantly the Northern Beaches. This little Niners DNA team at 2:25 in the afternoon. We've done a little bit earlier so viewers can get a earlier watch on this and get their information so they can get ready for the game tomorrow. So I've got Rod and Jono. We're going to go through some of the key stats for the game, the keys to victory. Is this an easy game for the Niners? And some key matchups. But just quickly, boys, how are you? Rod, you just gotten back from a Bali holiday?
Yes, mate, back in Australia. Spent 10 days in Bali, beautiful part of the world. Nice to see them getting back on their feet too, which is lovely.
And Jono, you and I had a couple of videos we've done a couple of pods we did in the last couple of days, one being on a winning formula plus our best bets from yesterday, which I think if the viewers can go back to the channel, you'll see it could just make a Monday morning quite a profitable morning for you. So let's get into it. So let's just get a look at some stats first of all, boys. So if we just look some overall stuff from the Niners perspective, obviously our defense first in the league. Our offense is tied 28th and our special teams is 20th. And I guess what I'll say here is I'll just put this up. Is this an easy game for us? And here are my thoughts on not so much some game stats and sort of playing field thinking, but more so around some environmental causal type mechanics that could affect the Niners. And what I mean by that is they've just come off a very emotional, and they would have been right up for the Rams at home. Big emotional games, it takes a while to come down. And obviously, the emotional part of us, talking about sports psychology, can take us just as much out of us as a tough game. And then we've got the travel across country, and we've got a different time zone. What are your thoughts on that? Anyone?
Rod, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah. No, well, I think last time we did that, I remember a couple of seasons ago, it was early on in the season, and we had back-to-back games at Giants Stadium, and we went over there we stayed on the road, and we stayed over there, and we practiced over there, and had two pretty good wins over there, if my memory serves me correctly. And Pete, just to counter what you said, I think going on the road, you get away from all the distractions. I think now we've got this one. Then they're going to, is it West Virginia Tech or West Virginia University or something?
They go to the Greenbrier. It's in West Virginia. Yeah, it's a really nice big complex.
Yeah. So they'll go and stay there, and I can see that having a real galvanizing effect on the squad. It's particularly put another win together, back-to-back wins. So I think you could sort of counter what you said, Pete, with the fact that going on the road might actually help get over that. And the other thing to say, there's a saying in rugby league that winning breeds winning. Teams, you learn how to win, and winning sides tend to continue to winning, where there are some sides that you just can't find a win anywhere, and you're having these narrow losses, and that actually also breeds on from it. So losing also breeds losing. So I'm pretty confident this week. But anyway, we can get to that later. Jono?
Yeah, look, I agree with everything you said there, Rod. But I also think I don't think there's going to be complacency there, because I'm mad about the disrespect that the 49ers defense is being shown, and I'm sure the players should be upset as well and ready to push forward. I do take it that playing a divisional game, playing the Rams, that's an emotional week, but moving forward, you've got to look at it. For not one 49ers player has been awarded the NFC defensive player of the week yet. For 3 weeks in a row, they've given it to Eagles players. I think Hassan Reddick got it last week. None of our players have even been mentioned. You got Deebo, you got Nick Bosa, who is the leading pressure getter, he's leading the sacks with 6 across the league. Hasn't been mentioned. You got Talanoa Ufunga, who's been playing with his hair on fire. He had an interception last week that iced Monday Night Football. And then on top of that, you've got Dre Greenlaw that since he signed his contract's been just running around mad. I think he had 15 solo tackles last week alone. And then they're not getting mentioned. They're not getting brought up in any kind of category. So you imagine inside that locker room, they're looking at everyone else getting all these types of awards and recognition, and it's probably part of that kind of keeping under the radar mentality, but also that if they're going to keep on disrespecting this, we're going to keep on going at these blokes. So I don't see a problem. I see our defense going out there and being able to dominate this and get us home comfortably.
All right. Well, let's go to some of that commentary you just spoke to, mate. So let's just go straight into the keys to victory. And I guess PFF has rated us first defense. Obviously, they are a different organization to the NFL. So they seem to think that we are, very much a force. And as I've said on Twitter and in some different platforms, that I think this defensive unit has the potential. Well, it's the best defensive unit I've seen in my 25 years watching this football team, and it's a step up on 2019, and the embarrassment of riches that we've got in terms of Jimmy Ward coming back, that's been confirmed, and as we talked about yesterday, Jono, that we didn't think he'd get many snaps, and that again has been confirmed. He's going to be eased in. Jason Verrett is not just quite there, but think about when Jimmy Ward's back and Jason Verrett's back fully healthy, and Demo, even I think you mentioned him just before, Demo Lenore, he doesn't miss a tackle.
No.
And for considering
that Womack was the guy that they were like that when he throughout the preseason and everything, he was playing out of his skin, and everyone was like, he's the slot cornerback, and Demo's just taken the spot from him.
Mm.
Well, mate, preseason is preseason, and Demo stepped up in when it counts. So that to me talks to exactly that. That's why we drafted him. And again, it has to be if we look at, I keep on saying, but I'm thinking about D'Amico Ryans now. His drafting of this defensive unit has just been top notch. So what are your? So just throwing to you, Rod. What are your keys to victory?
Keys to victory. I'm getting away from the defense because I think they'll actually do their job. My key to victory is Jimmy's consistency. I think on any given day in the NFL, any team can beat any other team. And we've seen Jimmy this year come out and, when we obviously came into the game, was it against Seattle? He came into the game and won us that game. But then against Denver, he was just, we've talked about it before. He was just awful. And so, with the side we've got, the team we've got, we don't expect Jimmy to have to go out and win us the game, but I just don't want him to lose us the game. So
no, and look,
he just has to manage
that up. Sorry, you go.
No, just has to be a game manager, limit the amount of picks or turnovers, and let the D do their job. So that's my key to victory.
Yeah, look, Jimmy is exactly what we wanted him to be last week. I've just got that stat up, 239 yards. Obviously, a lot of that was from Yak with Deebo and Juszczyk, but he did have an 8.9 yard per attempt, and a pass rating of 100, and that's where you need him to be, right? In that sort of sweet spot mode. He's not up at the 110, 115, 120s, but he's not down the sort of 60, 70, 80 mark.
I think the other thing too is, a rookie left tackle, and we're way down on the depth chart in that O-line and what's protecting Jimmy. Hopefully, in terms of their edge rushes, they've got Burns, and is it Gross? Yatur? He's on the other end. Yeah. So Burns was in Bosa's draft class. He was sort of, I saw a lot of stuff of, should we bypass on Bosa and get Burns and someone else? And we go, no. Stick with what we know, and that's proven to be a winner. But Brian Burns is a good edge rusher, and we can hopefully find a way to double team him, keep him out of Jimmy's face, give Jimmy time to play the game that he needs to play for us to win.
Well, I mean, that was one of my keys to victory, is to keep Jimmy upright, and I think we play the formula very well against the Rams, where it's that quick pass game. You're pushing guys wide, you're getting them in the screen, you're getting them guys on the slant coming across. Like that's the way that Jimmy likes to play. It gets him into. We've spoken about it before. That what gets him into rhythm and gets him rolling along, and playing the way that we need him to play. And I think that's how you nullify a guy like Burns off the edge.
Yeah. So let's just go straight into key matchups, boys. And I'll bring that slide back up. And PFF have got them, as a reasonable score of 83. But just wanted to chat to you guys about JC Horn and Deebo. I think Deebo is going to have a tougher assignment this week. We know that I think that he finds it a little bit harder to get separation as opposed to like your quicker wide receivers. JC Horn hasn't come up against Deebo before, so I could be wrong. I think he'll find it very hard to tackle him, but I think he might slow him down just enough so that Deebo's momentum is stopped and he doesn't make sometimes as many yards as we think he can. And I guess the other thing, as we want him to, then as you were mentioning too, Rod, Brian Burns, he's top 10 edge rusher, and we do have. And I think that will be definitely one part of our offensive struggle, is that if Jalen Moore is not able to, because they'll line him up with Brian, with Burnsy or every snap. If he can't contain Jimmy, then because he wasn't touched last week, Jimmy. He didn't even get pressured. Well, I think he got 4
there
or 5
was the Aaron
pressures.
Donald one.
That's right. Well, that's exactly right. So that was a whiff. Someone missed him. But
Spencer Burford missed him.
I know who has been playing well. But I think that some couple of key matchups before I throw over to you guys.
I wonder, just with the JC Horn Debo one, I wonder whether they have come up against each other. They're both South Carolina boys. They both went to the same college. So I don't know what the crossover period was then with the college at the same time. But if they've crossed paths before, and obviously Debo's probably a different player now than what he was in South Carolina, but they probably have some knowledge of each other.
That's a very good point. So all right, I'll throw to you guys, boys. So Jono, you continue, mate. What are some of your key matchups?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm harping on the defense because I'm banging the table for them, but Jordan Elliott writes for the 49ers. He's at Splash Cousins on Twitter, and he wrote a really, really great article about the pressure that this defensive line gets on the opposing team. Now, the league average for pressures is 32%, and the 49ers have been trucking along at 43 against Chicago, 44 against Seattle, 40 against Denver, and then a record high 48% against the Rams. So that's the key matchup I'm looking for is the rookie tackle from Panthers, Ike Ekonwu, who has had a solid start as an NFL player, and just have how Bosa kind of manhandles him and shows him the ropes tomorrow. So I'll be looking for us to keep that pressure rate up, and definitely our defensive line against their offensive line, which hopefully we can dominate, and that'll be a big key to the victory.
Rod, what do you think, mate?
I'll just pick up from what Jono said. Bosa doesn't like Baker Mayfield. So, harking back to their college days and the planting of the flag and all that sort of stuff. So he might even have a little extra spring in his step tomorrow, and that could be a sort of a problem for Baker.
Still one of my favorite interviews post-match after that Browns game when they interviewed Bosa. He doesn't say much, but he's going like, "Oh, what were you saying to him?" He goes, "Oh, I was just calling his name out."
Yes,
Baker.
Coming to get you, Baker.
Yeah.
But so I think there's that, and Pete, you had it up in your stats. The best overall defense against the worst overall. Offense. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's there. So, I just think this game's there for the taking.
So one thing that we were talking off air just before, and I was mentioning that our special teams is 20th, their special teams is 28th, so there's not much discrepancy between there, and we all know that Johnny Hecker's is gone down to the Carolina Panthers, and he can throw a football. They did it last week, and so they faked on a kick. So when you've got Matt Rule in there as the coach, who I think has done a good job getting himself an NFL head coaching job again, but he's going to be clutching at everything that he can, and I think if we can just if we're not careful, and I'm sure we've got our new coach there at special teams. If we're not careful, they could pull something out in the first quarter or second quarter just to put us on our back feet and place a bit of pressure on Jimmy. And I just, and I'm not saying that I think that the Niners will get beat, but I'm just, as I've said from the beginning, there's a few environmental factors, special teams type, maybe a wrinkle from their special teams coordinator, and hopefully nothing untoward happens, and our special teams coordinator is right on top of things. So, all right, well, let's move on to some final predictions, gentlemen. And so let's think about this when you're giving your final predictions. Give us some breakout numbers in terms of who do you think is going to, perform well, some sacks, some receiving yards, how Jimmy's going to go, and I'll go straight back to you, Rod. Give us a score as well, mate. Sorry.
Oh, I'll start with my score. If the game goes according to script, I don't know where Carolina are going to get their touchdowns from, and which comes back to what you said, Pete, about the special teams and some trick plays there, because Baker's been pretty bad. Their offense has been sort of pretty ineffectual, and coming up against this D, it's not the game for him to find his groove. So straight away, for me, that's one of the things that I'll be looking out for tomorrow. I think the sacks too. I think we'll be having a high sack count, and not necessarily Bosa, but as the double teaming of Bosa and the holding that we see of Bosa a lot opens up the rest of the field for the other boys at the other end, and so there's that as well.
Just going on the sack. So we had 7 sacks last week, 11 quarterback pressures. And the last time that the Carolina Panthers faced our Niners, and Jono mentioned it yesterday, that both he didn't have a strip sack. He was able to get in the quarterback's face. He jumped up, and I think it was Kyle Allen. Was it Kyle Allen? Or Kyle Allen, who was the quarterback back then in 2019, I think? I think it was.
Yeah, it was a young fellow, yeah.
Yeah, it was a young fella. It was a backup, and Cam, the Superman, Cam Superman, what's his name? The big
Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton was injured, and he ran away didn't get a touchdown, and that's actually what
he got brought down about 2 or 3 yard line. Yeah,
that's right. And so, sorry, mate, that's what I just wanted to mention just on the sack thing. We had 7 sacks and 11 QB pressures. Rod, I'll ask you, do you think we can better that?
Well, if we're ever going to do it, that's the game for it. Mind you, we beat them. I think we put 51 on them last time. Didn't we get 51 points against them last time?
51-12.
I don't know. Is our offense good enough these days to put 51 points on any team? Kyle's been pretty conservative, particularly with 4th downs. I'm sort of thinking 20-6, something like that. I can't see how they're going to get a touchdown. So, I'm thinking 20-6.
20-6. Any receiving yards? Anyone on the offense from a skills position that you think will shine?
Look, mate, I come back to it all the time. You've talked about that Deebo not being able to get separation, but I come back to put him on that jet sweep, the end arounds, all those sorts of things. I just love seeing that, and I think that really. Mate, like last week when he took that ball, it could have very easily been an intercept. He got it, he took off and took it to the house. If he hadn't have made those yards after the catch, it could have been a completely different game. It could have gone completely the different way. But I just hope we use him rather than putting him in the backfield and using him in the backfield. Are we able to put him on in those where he started, really, on the jet sweep and the end arounds and all those sorts of things? I really enjoy watching him play like that. So tend to have gone away from that a little bit, and just using him purely in the backfield and as a receiver.
So just before I throw to Jono, just speaking about those points that you mentioned, you're right. And a stat in our favour is that Matt Rule has not. I think he's 0 for 7 on. If he goes down, if he gets 17 points scored against him, he doesn't win as a coach. So, Jono, your final predictions, mate?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be hard for the Panthers offensively. Added to that, with Laviska Shenault has been ruled out. I think he did his hamstring last week, and he hasn't made it through. I just think, they just don't have enough options to be able to. I agree with you, Rod. I don't know how they score a touchdown. I think it could possibly only be from an error from the 49ers, and that's probably one of the things, is that you don't want them to beat themselves here or give the opposition a sniff because they've done something in terms of a turnover or something sloppy or penalties and of the like that sort of gave Chicago the sniff that they needed to get in there. But look, a lot of their success came through in the last time we played these guys was that pre-snap motion. So putting guys in motion and making the linebackers have to really work hard on what they were seeing versus where they were moving. And Luke Kuechly at the time couldn't handle that. Their outside linebacker, who probably had the best game for them that I saw last week in the Cardinals, the Frankie Luvu, he's questionable. I don't think he's trained all week. If that linebacker depth is down, I'd really like to see Kyle Shanahan use Deebo the way that you've spoken about there, Rod. But also, just a lot of that pre-snap motion, put the defense in two minds about what they're doing, and just really sort of start to take a charge in the running game. I see Jeff Wilson Jr. having a great game and a big game on the ground. I do see Deebo having a great game, and I do expect something sneaky from. I don't want to say both because I don't think there's enough targets to go around, but I see BA or Kittle coming alive at some point in this game, and I think that we're going to get away with this one 31-10.
Yeah, well put.
Can I just say something before John?
Yeah.
Something I come back to, and so that's something that Scotty says, is that, this has been a pretty buoyant and upbeat show, and everyone sort of is fairly confident that we're going to go pretty well tomorrow. But something that Scotty said, and I'll hark back to that, is we tend to get up for those big games against the Rams and against the Seahawks, and then we come along against someone we're expected to beat and play quite poorly. Now, I'm not suggesting for a second that that's going to happen tomorrow, but I just think it's something that we just need to be aware of, that we should be 4-0 at the end of the day.
We don't want that. We don't want this to be the trap game, mate.
Penalties beat us in game one, and then against Denver, we had a great first half. Really, Jimmy came out fantastic in that touchdown in the first quarter, and then we didn't score another point, and then the rest of it went terrible when the safety happened and everything like that. So we shouldn't be in this position we are now. We should be should be a 4-0 football team, but we're not.
Yeah, Rod, and I hope that's the message to the players, Rod. And you'd imagine, like, you're talking that, and that's kind of getting me fired up, thinking like that's the message. And if they're bunkered down for the next fortnight together, it's got to be we must walk out of here 5-3.
Yeah,
5. Sorry, where are we? 4-2. We must come back 4-2.
Yeah,
4-2. And if we're not 4-2, we failed.
Yeah, and Jono, because then after we go into that 4-2, we've got a run of really tough games with the Chiefs and
we see the Rams again.
Yeah,
Rams again.
Rams, Cards, have we?
Yeah, Cards.
A little bit there, but it's all about coming back home 4-2.
Yeah,
and so I guess from my perspective, gentlemen, I don't think this is the trap game. I think the Falcons will be more of a trap game than anything, because of just it seems in the last 3 or 4 years we've struggled to beat them. And so, yeah, well, look, I think this game will be won well. And when I say well, I think my score is going to be 24-10. I've just thrown in, a field goal and a touchdown, and I think that touchdown will come from some sort of weird wrinkle where we, either Jimmy gets sacked and drops the ball or something like that. I just don't think the offense has the ability to, set up a drive and go all the way down the field with the defensive structure and the defensive unit that we have. The only thing that I can add to what you guys have said is I think this will be a breakout game for BA in terms of yards. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure and double team Deebo because they know that they know what he can do. I think JC Horn will stick to him like glue, which I think Kyle will know, and I think that just opens up the lanes for BA. And I think BA is going to go for over 100 yards and at least one touchdown for me. So yeah, it's 24-10 for me, and BA over 100 yards and a touchdown.
Love to see it.
All right.
Fantastic.
Well, so for both the teachers on the show today, they're gonna because it's 7 a.m. tomorrow for all the people over in the States that are watching. For us over here in Sydney, I'll be able to have a look at it. I'll be watching closely, and my bets are on. Have you got your bets on yet, mate? Yeah, well done. Rod, if you haven't, mate, just have a quick look at the best bets for week 5. I'll put that in the comment. I mean, in the link to the show, so that everyone can definitely have a look and have a sniff at some money on a Monday morning. Well, that's it for us. Niners DNA, your Sydney, Australia look at 49ers football. Thank you very much, and we'll see you for the instant reaction show tomorrow afternoon or evening. Thank you, guys. Bye now.
Go Niners.
And
hey.